everybody, welcome back to The Beard and the Bald. I am Paul Shivey the Beard, joined by my compatriot, the Bald, Christopher Bumbray, in Montreal, in the city, at Jazz Fest.
Yeah,
kind of. Finished his breakfast.
Yeah, I'm just singing breakfast. It's to give you guys a peek behind the curtains this week. It's a little bit of a crazy day for me. So I had an interview this morning with Jesse Eisenberg because he's got a movie that's playing at Fantasia in Montreal next week. The Art of Self-Defense, which comes out next week as well. And for some reason, they brought him to Montreal. I guess there's some kind of there must be money involved in it from Canada or something like that. But anyway, they brought him in and he's doing interviews and they asked me if I wanted to talk to him and I figured why not. And I just saw him at the Queenie Hotel, which was where John Lennon and Yoko Ono had their infamous sit-in. And I'm on the road right now because I go to my day job is at 1 o'clock. I got a TV hit about 15 minutes before that. So I'm just having a nice little breakfast and catching up with my friend Paul.
Man, what a day.
It's an exciting day. And then I'm seeing Stuber right after work.
Damn, bro. That is a packed day.
And we're in the middle of a heat wave, too, in Montreal. It is hot.
Oh, bro, it's the same way in Alaska. It is hot as fuck. And here's the other thing, and we talked about this last time.
No air conditioning.
There's no air conditioning in Alaska. Like, you could go buy an air conditioner, but nobody has central air. Nobody has any kind of air conditioning. So it's funny. It's almost like, like when you see emergencies and store shelves clear out of bread and water and milk. In Alaska, it's cleared out of fans and air conditioners. Like, they're gone.
I never actually. We only just installed my air conditioners. We have two in the apartment, and we just installed them on Monday because we haven't even needed them so far this summer because it's been relatively cool. But today is not a day. They're not on right now because I only just installed them, and I'm afraid that they may not run properly. So I want to wait until I get home. But yeah, I'm gonna be running those for the next couple of days, though. That's for sure.
Yeah.
An interesting interview with Eisenberg, though. So that'll be up tomorrow. One of those things, man, you can never tell going in to meet somebody because the only interview that I ever saw with Eisenberg was that one that he did on YouTube for one of the Now You See Me movies that was really bad. And I was sure that he was going to be arrogant. Like, I was sure he was going to be a jerk. So I was going in kind of expecting the worst. But man, I'll tell you, that was a great interview. He was a super nice guy. The only thing about it was that he talks so much that you kind of lose track of time. Like, I didn't get barely any of the questions I wanted to get in there because they cut me off. But it was funny, though. So when I get in, he asked me, he goes, "Oh, you speak English?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's because in Montreal, they mostly speak French. And he was wondering where I was from. And I think we ate up a big chunk of the interview because he was like interviewing me about my life and stuff. And he had me show him videos of my dad on YouTube doing info crime and stuff like that. He was a great guy. He was a super nice guy.
So you just made a friend.
I did make a friend, and you'll hear it on the podcast. You'll hear our friendship, our bromance.
Well, you know what, though? Sometimes those kinds of interviews are more engaging than... I mean, look, The Art of Self-Defense looks interesting, and you said it's really good. But it's like, sometimes you don't really want to talk about them. Like, you just want to see the movie. You can talk a little bit about it, but most of the time, it's kind of like an interview like that is... You have a very short amount of time. It's speed dating, so you kind of want to establish a good rapport that makes a bigger difference than just like, oh, we're getting into the nitty gritty of this.
It was just a nice casual chat, and it was too bad I didn't get the stuff that when he was asking me about my family and stuff on tape because he did it like as soon as he came in and shook my hand and he goes, "Oh, hi, where are you from?" And it was kind of thank you, and it was kind of casual like that. But I think the interview was interesting though. I think it was a good interview because we had a very easy rapport and stuff like that, and a nice back and forth. It wasn't even really like an interview; it was just a casual conversation. I actually asked him though if he was going to TIFF with Zombieland too, and he was kind of surprised. He's like, "Oh, would they schedule a movie like that?" I'm like, "Oh, maybe Midnight Madness." And he goes, "Oh," he says, "if they do," he says he would for sure go. And he actually said that if he goes to TIFF, he said we should chat again. So there you go.
You guys are buddies.
Yeah, we are
best friends now.
Best friends. I know.
You're best friends with Lex Luthor.
Don't tell Don.
Oh shit, that's funny.
He might be coming to TIFF as well with Knives Out. So
and we'll talk a little bit about Knives Out in a bit. But the big topic of the week, I think, or interesting discussion.
Of course, it is the topic of the week: Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Spider-Mans. So I just saw Spider-Mans last night with my kid, and he loved it. of course, and
but you were cool on it though, eh? You were cool.
I did not love it. I didn't walk out like, oh my god, it was so good. I walked out thinking it was entertaining, but I had issues. I did have issues with it.
Well, I had issues too, but they were minor. Like I gave it an 8 on 10, but which I thought was pretty fair.
I mean, I think that's I'd probably fall it somewhere between a 7 and an 8. I would probably give it a 7, to be honest with you.
You know, the thing is, though, my issue with it was probably the same as your issue, and I kind of even wrote that in my review, is that it's so tied into everything that's happening in Marvel. Like, it doesn't feel necessarily like a Spider-Man movie. It feels more like...
And I think that's the biggest thing.
It's an epilogue to Avengers Endgame, really.
Yeah. And, yeah.
Although I did like the way they left it, though, after the credits, which we shouldn't really talk about because it's going to be kind of fresh, I think, but that was a great...
We'll give a spoiler warning.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about it.
Most important thing happens during the end credits, though, which is crazy.
The second end credits did nothing for me.
No, but they're always kind of throwaway, though. The
second one is
like Ant-Man. It's an ant playing the drums and Ant-Man versus Wasp and with an Ant Wasp, but I don't even remember what it's called now. But it's always kind of like that, or the cat. In Captain Marvel, but the first one's pretty damn important. Yeah,
and cool. Like it kind of brings us back to Spider-Man and his story, and kind of his historical story in the comics. And we'll dip into that a little bit more. But just so everybody knows, I will give a spoiler warning, which would just be an indication to skip a little bit forward because I do want to mention it. And I'm sure many of you that are listening have already seen it and probably want to discuss it too or hear about it. So, but anyways, I liked the movie. I thought it was enjoyable. I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, although I will say I'm getting a little bit tired of the kind of aw shucks performance because Peter Parker is not always aw shucks. He's not always like It's not always like this awkward weirdo, and I get it. Like, well, he's still in high school and he's still a kid, and I was like, okay, I understand that, but I think like the awkwardness of Peter Parker is being played a little too high. Well, he's not enough of him as a confident individual.
Well, he's like Michael J. Fox. I felt like
kind of like that. And I feel like we've been in that arena. Oh my God, you hear that plane? That's so fucking loud.
Jeez, is it crashing?
That motherfucker's gonna crash.
Yeah. Sounded like the engine was kicking out.
Oh fuck. But anyways, like I just feel like hey dude, a plane literally just crashed in my house. We're gonna have to cut this short.
And that was the beard and the bald. I think Paul just got decapitated by that plane.
Paul's dead.
No, it's like Donnie Darko.
Who did a nice job in Spider-Man Far From Home. But anyways, like I think, Tom Holland's performance, it's like while he has that kind of like wide-eyed, teen innocence thing, same as Tobey Maguire and even Andrew Garfield did for a bit. But I just don't feel like in this film we saw enough of Peter Parker just kind of with some moments of levity. I felt like and any of the ones that came were all hinged to Tony Stark.
Well, and arguably, I felt like
that was too little.
Arguably, the better Peter Parker was in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Agreed. Without question. I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a far superior movie than Far From Home.
Well, I think it's
especially when you come in.
It's the best Spider-Man movie ever.
I tend to agree.
By a wide margin for me.
But I'll say this too. While I was watching Far From Home, truly in my head, I said, man, I miss the Raimi movies. Because the Raimi movies,
they were their own thing.
You talk about being a flawed part 3 or whatever, they were still Spider-Man movies. Like I never felt like this was anything but a Spider-Man movie. Here in Far From Home, it's like Mysterio is fine. I don't think Mysterio is a great villain to begin with. He's never been a great villain in the comics or anything.
I'm curious as to whether or not fans are going to like that because it is kind of similar to spoiler alert.
You've been warned.
Spider-Man, it's Iron Man 3, right? With the bait and switch that they did with the Mandarin. They kind of do the same thing here with Mysterio.
Well, but I mean, anybody that knows, I guess, for those that know comics, would know that Mysterio is a villain. He's always been a villain. So, I don't think anybody would be shocked to find out that he like goes bad. But
no, but it's kind of in a jokey way, though.
Oh yeah. And and I think that's the other thing too, is like the stakes never felt all that genuine. Like when he does turn and he's all like, and then the plot is revealed, it was kind of a groaner. I was kind of like, oh, they're like disgruntled Stark employees. Like, and just like when you really break it down to the mechanics of it and the motivations of these people that are helping him, like what we learn nothing about these people. They're just helping him, and you're just like, why? Why are they helping them? Are they all stupid? They don't see that he's a fucking crackhead?
So the main one that does like that escapes, that's Peter Billingsley. He
Ralphie.
was Ralphie, yeah, in A Christmas Story.
I know. I told my son while we were watching it, and I was like, "That's Ralphie," and his eyes open wide. He's like, "What?" I was like, "Yep, it's Ralphie." So
you're gonna put your eye out.
I don't think he's actually that bald. I think he's
not. He's not. Yeah. He did. They were trying to make him look different, I think.
And he is also, a lot of people don't know, he's also has directed. He directed Couples Retreat.
And
he produced the first Iron Man.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's been Ralphie went on to some decent things. He didn't die of soap poisoning. So he's kicking around. I think anytime during the film that we got a chance to get into Peter Parker's story, it was always interrupted by somebody from the MCU. It was Nick Fury or some other outside influence or Happy or whatever, and I'm just kind of like, I feel like we got too far away from Spider-Man. Who is Spider-Man? And it does bother me that we still haven't addressed anything with Ben Parker. And it's like we're trying to skirt this whole with great power comes great responsibility, as if, we've already seen that and done that. And it's like, but that's a core aspect of his personality, just like Batman's parents being killed is a core aspect of his personality and his motivations. And that's a huge thing. And the most they touch on it in Far From Home is that he's carrying Ben Parker's suitcase to go overseas. You see the initials on the suitcase. And I feel like it's a disservice to the character to like not address that. So I don't know why they can't even mention it to some degree.
Is there a Ben Parker?
Yeah, dead.
Did they mention that in the first movie? Because I mean,
no, they tap danced around it in Civil War.
Because I feel like that doesn't necessarily exist in that version.
No, well, I'm sure it does. They just haven't like head on addressed it. Because I think
they would have brought it up with this one because it's the same thing. Basically, Tony Stark is his Uncle Ben, kind of.
Well, he's carrying like I said, he has the suitcase that says Ben Parker, and he talks about, before he even met Tony Stark, was talking about, basically he said the line without saying it, which is, with great power comes great responsibility. And the whole purpose that I got from that was that they were trying to sidestep repeating themselves after the other Spider-Man films. So it's like they're trying to purposely avoid that whole thing, but it's a defining characteristic. And if they're trying to swap in Tony Stark as Ben Parker, I feel like that's a bit of a disservice because it's not as connected to his origins and to who he is. So, there wasn't a moment where he could have saved Tony Stark and he didn't. Even though they bring that up in the movie, I'm like, wait a minute, when the fuck was Spider-Man gonna save Tony Stark?
Yeah.
Like, they're fighting Thanos in like this mega battle. It wasn't a deep personal battle where like Spider-Man and Iron Man's fates were intertwined at a key pivotal moment to save someone's life. That was a fucking brawl, and Tony Stark just happened to get the upper hand with those stones, and that was that. Nothing to do with Spider-Man. So I don't know. I feel like we're missing Peter Parker. I feel like Holland has a pretty decent lock on playing Peter Parker, but he didn't get the chance to be Peter Parker in this, outside of like him being like an awkward teen trying to kiss the girl that he likes.
Speaking of that, though, I really did like Zendaya a lot.
As MJ. I like Zendaya quite a bit. I wish she had, if she's going to be MJ, I wish she had red hair or some kind of characteristic from the comics character. I don't care about race, but something that defines who she is. Like MJ in the comics is a model and an actress. She has red hair, and it's kind
of
like
Mary Jane, though. That's not her name in it. She just goes by MJ.
She's MJ. She's Mary Jane. She's MJ.
But no, I do like her a lot. And I've actually been watching a show that she's on now, Euphoria, on HBO.
Yeah, I watched the first episode of Euphoria.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to stick with it. I might or may not. I don't know. I'm kind of
okay. I like her in it, but at the same time, it's kind of
a little much.
Yeah, I think it's like I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and it feels like they're just trying to beat you over the head with how edgy it is.
Well, it's like Assassination Nation. It's pretty much like that as a show. And I liked that as a movie, but I don't know if I'd want to watch like 13 hours of that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Me too.
It's not really like knocking me over. I'm gonna check out the second episode, but like, really, most of the characters kind of feel stereotypes. Stereotypes.
Big time.
So I'm just kind of like, it's hard to invest in that. Where you're like, oh, I get it. This is that guy. This is this girl. This is this girl. There's no nuance. So
one show I am looking forward to watching though is Stranger Things season 3 comes out tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'll watch that.
And the reviews are great. Everybody's saying it's like a real return to form.
I think we have a review coming up.
The only thing about it, apparently, is the thing. They all say that. I even forget their names of the characters, but Natalia Dyer and what's his name, Charlie Heaton. The older kids.
Yeah.
Apparently, it splits up into like 4 stories, and they're one of the stories. And apparently, their story is just deadly dull. Like, because you just don't care about them at all at this point. But they say that they really kind of lean into like Steve Harrington being like one of the heroes, who I loved. I thought he was great, especially in season 2.
Which one? Oh, Steve? He was weird. He was like the jock dude.
I love him though. In season 2, he was great.
I didn't like him.
Really?
Nah, didn't do anything.
Well, I don't like you.
So anyways, back to Spider-Man. I think, and I said this in my post-screening tweets that, this feels as it's a good Marvel movie, but it's just not a good Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to say it. But I think that people are kind of going to see it because it's Marvel, right? I mean, like there's
which
a real,
is fine, but
I feel like that's what the audience kind of wants too at a certain point, because like everybody was going crazy for it at the screening that I went to.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of it took a while to get going though. It did not like really kick off. And there was a whole sequence that they've been pimping in the trailers of him in the Iron Spider suit fighting some bad guys in another location and then talking to the cops, and that scene wasn't even in the movie. And it was like they've like been leading with that in the promotions, which I thought was kind of weird that wasn't in there. But yeah. It had its moments. I didn't think the action was all that great. It was really just a lot of Spider-Man swinging and jumping. And the whole time I'm thinking, I was like, Spider-Man can punch things, right? Like he can actually fight. And there's no fight. It's like everything hinged on him just like whipping and swinging and jumping. And I get it. Well, he's Spider-Man. I'm like, well, I get it, but he's a comic hero and he can punch things and he has, superhuman strength, and would have been nice to have seen a little bit of that. And I think he threw like 1 or 2 punches at Mysterio, but I feel like you get away from like the action equivalent when that's all it is him just kind of swinging and jumping around. So I would have liked to have seen more than him just like beating up drones. Like, I just didn't do much for me. I'm so sick of the drone stuff. And honestly, really, Tony Stark's legacy, he leaves a fucking giant satellite with a bunch of killer drones. Like, thanks, Stark. Like, and he gives it to Spider-Man. Like, that's just kind of like weird. Why? Why would he think that Spider-Man would want to control killer drones? He's like, hey, I'm gonna give that to Parker. I'm gonna give it to the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I'm gonna give him this tech that can control fucking killer drones from space.
Just give me a sec, Paul. Would it be okay if I just squeezed into the corner over there?
Personally, no. Like, if you want us to feel like staying, it would be on this side.
Is that okay? I'll just go sit at the table over there. Yeah, that's fine. Thanks. Actually, you know what? I'm okay here. Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks. Never mind. Sorry.
Staying in the podcast.
Yeah.
Is it too loud there or something?
No, it's not. It's just there's more people coming. Anyway, it's okay. It's fine.
Okay. So anyways, yeah. I just I feel like it's kind of the whole setup there is just really weird. With Stark leaving his glasses and some technology to control drones to Peter Parker. How is that like a legit legacy kind of like, hey, let me pass the torch to Peter Parker here? I don't understand why that is a thing. Like, why is that the right person to give that to? And why and how or why or when would Peter Parker use it? That just doesn't add up for me.
It does not make sense.
No, it doesn't. And then we're spoilers. Giving you advance notice. We're going to talk about these post-credit scenes. So you might want to skip ahead about 5 minutes if you don't want to hear about it. So the other thing that ties it all together. So the whole movie, I'm like, Nick Fury and Maria Hill don't feel like Nick Fury and Maria Hill.
No, not at all.
Movie, I was like, they're off. Like, and I was getting annoyed. I was like, I don't even like Nick Fury. I'm like, God, he's just such a demanding asshole. Like, this is not the same Nick Fury from Avengers. I was thinking, like, did they get away from his personality? Did they just forget who he was? And then, of course, at the very end, meaning at the post credits, we find out that they're Skrulls, and they're the same Skrulls, Ben Mendelsohn and his wife, who are, well, Skrulls are nice guys now. So they're actually posing as Nick Fury and Maria Hill on Earth to, I don't know what, to assuage things while fucking Nick Fury has a vacation in space. So Nick Fury is like on a Skrull giant ship and just relaxing. And then he gets a call from the two Skrulls who say, hey, trying to like do our best here, and everything seems to be going good. We gave the glasses to the kid. First off, here, let's give Tony Stark's legacy to the Skrulls. Okay, cool. And trust them to hand it over to Peter Parker, which they do, surprisingly, because the Skrulls are good guys now. And I have to say that because in the comics, the Skrulls are evil fucking killers. They're a murderous race of aliens. The end. And then we see that Nick Fury is just chilling on this ship. But why? Why is Nick Fury chilling on the ship? We don't know. Who knows? It's like
he's on vacation.
Yeah, he's having a vacation on a Skrull ship. I got to get off Earth. But throughout the whole movie, like I was like, man, these guys just do not feel like those characters anymore. And I didn't like them. I was like, I don't like these guys anymore. Like, they suck, And so then you like kind of see what the bigger picture is, and it almost felt like they did the whole thing just to show that they were Skrulls, but not because it had to make sense, because it didn't. So I didn't care for that. People were like, oh, you got to stay to the post. It's the best. I saw so many of our peers were like, it is the best ever post-credit scene. I'm like, no, not even close. Now, the first end credits was fucking magnificent. So, again, spoilers. You've been given a spoiler warning here. Can't say it enough. Spider-Man's, he's swinging with MJ, he drops her off, and then like a news alert comes on like Times Square or something. And Mysterio has recorded a video that basically says Spider-Man is the bad guy and that he is really Peter Parker. So Peter's identity is revealed, which is a huge thing for the MCU. And then we see a Daily Bugle report come with J. Jonah Jameson, but not just J. Jonah Jameson, some new actor, but J.K. Simmons back.
Which I love.
And I will tell you, in the theater...
Oh, me too. Yeah, everybody went crazy.
The biggest moment of the entire movie. The dude next to me was like shaking. His body was like doing a fucking shake weight. like God reached in and was just shaking his body up and down. Like, I'm not even joking. I was like,
wow,
Jesus.
that's kind of sad.
Yeah, like, he was like very fucking excited. I was like, this is cool, bro, but I'm just gonna kind of maintain my composure. I'm afraid he might fucking turn into a scroll or something. But like the audience like went nuts, and I was like super excited. I was like, oh, that is fucking great. Like, that's fucking cool. That's like the right move to bring him back into the MCU, because he's a great J. Jonah Jameson. Like, everybody loves. Who doesn't like J.K. Simmons? Like, who's gonna replace?
A great guy too. I told you my cocktail party story with J.K. Simmons.
We've heard it. We know.
Okay, I won't repeat it. I'm sorry.
So yeah, I thought that was a great moment, and that felt to me like a Spider-Man moment. You know, that felt like, okay, this is a Spider-Man universe thing, not a Marvel universe thing. And while I understand that Spider-Man is, you're not going to explain anything new to me. I've fucking been reading comics for 30 fucking years. He is still Spider-Man in the Spider-Man universe, and that's what I really want to see in a Spider-Man movie. I don't mind like a few, things here and there, but I would like to see him just be Spider-Man. So that is my biggest complaint, is it wasn't enough Peter Parker Spider-Man story. And I think that what we need to get to a villain, be it Venom or Carnage or Doc Ock or fucking any of his key core villain base, not Mysterio, that gives him just a Spider-Man challenge where he has to defeat whatever threat he has on his own, not with Stark Tech, not with Avengers, but
because I feel
on
like
his own.
I feel like in that world though, you set it up and it almost makes no sense for them to defeat it on their own, because he's got like that whole group to fall back on, and I think in a way, I think they've shot themselves in the foot.
Remember when they bring him in to meet Mysterio? First off, how fucking dumb are these scrolls? They're like, oh, he's Mysterio. He said he's from an alternate universe, guys. So we must believe him. Like, what? they
are dumb. I guess that's the point. Yeah,
they're fucking idiots. Like, but anyways, and Spider-Man comes in. He's like, hey, like, can't you call Thor or Captain Marvel or somebody? They're like, well, they're off world, not available. Blah blah blah. So, it's pretty easy to dismiss and just say, well, they're not around. And, again, you got to look in service to the story, And if Spider-Man is dealing with a personal experience, a personal battle, or say if you did Kraven's Last Hunt, where Kraven actually captures Spider-Man and buries him alive, and Spider-Man has to like fight through that. It's a fucking great story. And, there's no Avengers, there's nobody else involved, because Spider-Man is like, it's something that he needs to tackle immediately. It's an immediate kind of thing, not something like, well, let me call them and see what they say and see if they can send someone over. It's more like, fuck, I have to eliminate this threat now. I don't have time for any of that shit. So that's what I like to see, is get that sense of urgency in a Spider-Man story, not some fucking bullshit that ties into every goddamn MCU movie out there. I think, as you said, as an epilogue, it's fine. As an MCU movie, it's good. It's not bad by any means, but as a Spider-Man movie, it's a poor example for me.
Good. I mean, I'm just not as invested in it as you are, though. That's the thing. I like it. I enjoyed it as a movie, but it's not, it's not a huge thing for me.
Well, I'm gonna smack you in the mouth. It's because you're just an indie guy.
Not really. But you know what I am excited for, though, is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
What? I had no idea you were looking forward to that.
But Tarantino now is saying that he wants to stop making movies. But it's something he's been saying for years and years and years, though.
But he keeps revisiting it of late. So,
well, he says that it's going to be 10 movies. That he was going to do 10 movies, and this is his 9th. I mean, I believe him. I actually do think that he's probably only going to do the 10 movies. He might come back years later, but he's always said that he didn't want to be an old man making movies. He didn't want to be that, because he's always had this idea that when you get older as a director, your movies aren't as good anymore. And he's always kind of criticized a lot of these other directors for doing that. And I do feel like he'll stop. He'll go and do something else. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he did like even a series or something like that. But
yeah, I don't think and even Brad Pitt commented on it. He's like, yeah, Tarantino keeps bringing that up. He's like, but the book's not closed on him. And I think that Tarantino will either he'll continue to make movies just because I think he's just kind of finicky and he's kind of like he gets very emotionally invested and it takes a toll when you make a movie. Like people think, oh, you just go off and it's just a grand experience and everybody's happy. It's like, dude, it's an artistic fucking endeavor.
Well, especially somebody like
you.
him, especially somebody like him who puts a lot into these movies too.
Yeah.
Like I can imagine he really kind of agonizes over it and probably gets really hurt when people don't seem to get it and stuff like that. So, you know, it doesn't surprise me. I don't think I don't think the Star Trek movie is ever going to happen though. I really don't.
I'll be shocked if it does. It's one of those things where it's like it sounds so intriguing, but it also sounds so far away from.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a good idea, to be honest.
I just don't know why you would need an R rating for a Star Trek movie. And I understand like what they've said, and like, oh well, you know, we can really show what happens when you get sucked into space when a ship blows up. I'm like, well, like I need to see bodies torn apart on Star Trek. I don't know. Like, I mean, and dude, I'm like an R-rated guy. Like, trust me. Like, this is my, you know, I grew up on Verhoeven and everybody else, and just loved all the fucking gore and violence and everything. But for some movies, it's just not necessary to. I don't need Starship Troopers version of Star Trek. Like, I just don't need it. So, I don't know.
I'll tell you. You know, it's something I don't need though.
What?
The Walking Dead.
Oh, well, you're in luck. At least if you read the comics.
Well, actually, I've never read the comics, but I haven't watched the show in years.
Well, the comics are amazing. They are truly great. And I will say I got more joy and more, I don't know, and more entertainment value out of the comics than I ever have out of the show. But I don't hate the show. I will say that. Like, I understand the critiques, and I've had them myself. Trust me. There's multiple times, and I didn't even watch the last season. That was actually the last season is one I haven't watched. But the comic itself, written and created by Robert Kirkman, is a great book. The characters are great. It's well developed, and what I always loved about the comic that I don't feel like they really explored. Well, they explored it. Okay, I can't say that, but there was so much depth into the darkness of the human soul in this kind of environment, and there were points that just like shocked me in the comic where I'm like, God damn, like just intense. If anybody thinks the show is intense, the comic is fucking 10 times more intense. And I appreciated that, man. The comic has balls. It has gusto. But anyways, in the comics, the last issue, Kirkman kills off Rick Grimes. So Rick Grimes is killed in the comics, and it was a kind of a drawn out thing where he was killed, and so that's it. And then Kirkman just announced that the next issue is the last issue. Like, there was no like lead up to it. There was no like, hey, you know, the last issue's coming. Literally, like, just announced, hey, the next issue that's coming out, which is I think like in a couple weeks. That's it. The series is done. And I think that's really fucking cool.
Yeah,
that Kirkman could end the show on his own end the comic on his own terms. He started it, and he could end it himself just how he wanted. So when you look on the flip side of someone like George R.R. Martin with Game of Thrones, he didn't really have that same thing. So, you know, he was kind of at the mercy of other people writing his material and material that he hadn't even finished. And I think that being able to close your own chapter is a great thing as a writer, as an artist. That's a fucking great thing. So I think that's cool. So now if you wanted to read the Walking Dead comics, you could go from beginning to end.
Yeah.
You don't have to sit around and be like, oh, I wonder where it's going to go. And Kirkman did something similar with his superhero book at Image, which is Invincible, which is being turned into an animated, I think, movie or show with Seth Rogen. He just ended it. He's like, no, I'm going to close the chapter. I'm going to close this, and then that'll be that. So I don't know. There's in an age where we're trying to like keep everything alive forever, it's kind of nice that, you know, some of these things can have a beginning and an end. And so yeah, I think that's cool. Now the show.
Contrary to that, though, you know, it's funny. Contrary to that, because I've been seeing on on Twitter now they've been talking about Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul, right? That they're teeing up, that they're doing something together. And my big fear is that they're coming back to that Breaking Bad movie because I really don't want Walter White to still be alive. Like if they do some kind of flashback, that's okay, but I really don't want Walter White to still be alive because I think that'll really screw up the ending of what was already kind of a perfect ending.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've talked about that before, and I think if Walter White is still alive, I could actually buy it because we never saw him buried. We never saw like the camera just kind of like drifts away as he's laying there bleeding, and we just assume like, well, he's dead, he's done, it's over. But anything could happen if they wanted to pump life into it. I do agree with you that it kind of cheapens what that finale was, but I don't know. People miss Walter White. I miss Walter White. But I love that, again, Breaking Bad, you could watch from top to bottom and be done. You don't have to continue. You could be like, well, that was it. You could ignore anything that comes after. What did I just watch? I just watched something and I was like, I'm just going to pretend that other thing doesn't exist. Fuck, I can't remember. I'll see if it comes to me. I watched something and I was like, man, this sucks.
Well, I don't know.
I don't either. I can't remember.
You know what I'm looking forward to seeing though? Knives Out.
Well, I'm glad somebody is.
Yeah, why? What's your issue with it?
It just seems like too cheeky. Like it's like, hey, this is a whodunit. Get ready.
Well, I think it's a comedy though, and it looks a lot like Brothers Bloom.
Yeah, I don't know. And here's the thing, like I'm not a Rian Johnson haterade kind of guy. Like I love Brick. I think Brick is brilliant. And this has kind of like the similarities to that. And I love Looper too. I thought Looper was great. But this feels like almost too on the nose, like cheeky whodunit to me. It's just like, I don't know. It didn't quite work. And again, this is a trailer, so that doesn't mean that the movie couldn't work. But the trailer itself, I was very lukewarm on. I was like, I don't know. Looks okay. Great actors, great cast, no doubt. But it felt rehearsed. Like all the lines and everything. It felt very like almost like a play. So maybe that's the point. I don't know. And he has done that stuff before, where he's gone with say Brothers Bloom or Brick, although Looper I would argue is probably more mainstream for him. But those other films definitely feel kind of staged, I guess. It's the best way I can put it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I think the cast is great. And, my buddy DJ's in it.
DJ. Oh, of course. Fucking forget it. Everything you say now about Knives Out doesn't matter. Because we know your bias is quite clear. It's written on the wall. If it's Don Johnson, forget about it. That motherfucker, he could be like in the worst fucking B movie, and you'd be like, oh shit, yeah.
Well, I wanted to review Vault, and you wouldn't let me.
It was too late. Sucker. Whatever. Now you just robbed everybody of a fucking great movie, which I'm sure it is. So another trailer that came out was Jumanji: The Next Level. I'm not sure about this one, man. I'm not sure about.
I actually haven't seen the trailer for this yet, but I was just reading about our coverage on it, JoBlo. So what happened? So you say Danny DeVito now takes over Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's part,
right? So, and Dwayne is no longer the teenage kid. He's now playing old Danny DeVito, and Kevin Hart is playing old Danny Glover. So you may think, oh, that's brilliant.
But then the other kids, are they still in it, or?
Well, the black kid plays Jack Black's character now, so it's not the girl in Jack Black's body; it's the black dude. And then the only one that's the same is the Karen Gillan, the red-haired chick. I don't know their names, so they're.
What happens to the other kids?
The one girl's not in there. Was it Bethany or whatever? She's not. She doesn't even show up. And then the other kid went back into the main kid that The Rock played in the first one. It goes into Jumanji. So they like show up at his house and they end up getting sucked into the game after they find out that he's been fucking with it. And I guess he got put into the game. So they go in and they're different. So they're it's all the same, the characters in terms of the avatars, but there's different people playing them. So you have The Rock basically trying to be Danny DeVito, but it's not. I don't get that he's Danny DeVito. Like it doesn't feel like he's Danny DeVito. And then you have Kevin Hart trying to play like an old black man, which is supposed to be Danny Glover. And there's little bits of comedy in it, but mostly it's like, I don't know if this is gonna work. Like it's a bold choice to change
we'll
it up.
see. I mean, nobody thought that the last one was gonna work either. Cut to $1 billion later.
Yeah, I mean, and it looks good in terms of like production value. It looks good. It looks very, very much like the other one, but I don't know, man. It's kind of a gamble changing the voices like that. So I guess we'll see. Maybe that's part of the plan. I'm sure that it is. They probably sat down and they were like, well, how do we make it different? How do we make it better? It's like, well, we can have different people. You guys basically playing different characters. You could do this for infinite movies, which I guess they could. Whether or not this one works out in terms of my concern is if it's just going to be annoying, because I'm not sure these guys can sell the old people voices as well as they might think. Yeah. It might get tired. It feels like it could get tired. So we'll see. I mean, I'm going to see it. I'll find out for myself. But there's another trailer that came out that I'm really not sure I'm going to see, and probably not, is the Charlie's Angels trailer, which I don't think this movie knows what it is.
Well, here's my problem with the trailer for Charlie's Angels, okay? And I think that this is kind of a problem with a lot of movies Sony's done lately, and I think it's probably the issue with Men in Black International, is that it looks like they're trying to do these big IPs, right? But it also looks like they don't have any confidence in them whatsoever.
Yeah.
So they're not putting any money or any resources into them. Like, I mean, if you go see Men in Black International, it's a cheap movie. It's a blockbuster that they did on the cheap, right? There's like nothing really into it. There's not much action. Special effects are whatever. There's not much scale. And it looks like Charlie's Angels probably cost even less than that. So they're trying to build up this franchise, but they're not putting anything into the movie. Like, they're really kind of doing it in a half-assed way. I mean, I'm not saying that Elizabeth Banks is doing a half-assed job. I don't think she is. And I don't necessarily think the cast is either. But I think that the studio is really cautious about pumping any money into it. And I think it's a bad thing when you look at the original Charlie's Angels movies, and the scale is so much bigger.
Oh, yeah, they're huge.
If you're going to compete with those movies, you've got to make them bigger than that. You really do. Or you have to have something really, really, really good at the core of the movie.
Yeah, and you got to find a new angle. You got to find something that defines it.
And they really don't make it look like anything more than like a TV movie or a streaming movie.
And it looks like, and all the action scenes are ripped off of something else we've seen 1,000 times before. Like the chick hanging out of the car with the gun. Hello, Tom Cruise did that in fucking Mission Impossible 3. Like,
well, it's just a cliche at this point. Like, I mean, I like the idea of the cast. Like, I like Kristen Stewart and Naomi Scott, and I don't know who the other one is, but, that's not bad. And the multiple Bosleys is okay too. But I also find it kind of annoying to trying to set up this whole shared universe thing. And I just don't know if that's necessarily going to work. Like, it seems like a big idea, but also they're just not putting enough money into it.
Yeah.
Like it needs to be, if you're gonna invest in this and you want people to go see it in theaters, you have to give them a reason to go see it. And I think that's what we're seeing with Men in Black International now, is that people can tell, they can sniff it out whether or not it's a cash grab.
Yeah.
And I don't think that necessarily Charlie's Angels is going to do well if they're marketing it that way. Like, they've got to have, it has to be a great movie for them in order to do well. Because if it's just an okay movie, people aren't going to go see it.
Well, and you also have to keep in mind is that the other the McG Charlie's Angels movies, say what you will about them, but people really did like them. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, and they stood out. Like,
well, they liked the first one. The second one didn't do very well, but the first one they loved.
Yeah, I actually liked the second one better than the first one.
Yeah, me too.
I liked Demi more. Yeah, it was, it was fun. It was, and it was, the action was big and bold, and it had a style to it. This Charlie's Angels looks like it has no style whatsoever. It's very like, as you said, it's like, it looks like a TV movie. Like, if you're making a feature, like, show us something that looks like a feature. Honestly, if it were me, if you handed me Charlie's Angels, I would direct it as if Michael Bay was directing it. Yeah. I would make a straight action comedy with Michael Bay style fucking theatrics, slow-mo shots, fucking I would do everything I could to accentuate everything. That's what I would make. I'd make a fucking rock video.
They did a Charlie's Angels TV series recently that flopped, and it looks the same as this. So I just don't know why it's being turned into a movie.
I don't see it doing well. I see it fucking belly flopping, and I think it's going to put Charlie's Angels on the shelf for a long time, and I'm fine with that. Another trailer that came out that actually impressed me more than I thought it would, because I had just kind of written it off, was the trailer for Midway.
Yeah, you see, I don't know about this. Every time I go see a Roland Emmerich movie, I always think, I'm always hoping that it'll be fun, but it's been a long time since
it's
Emmerich
true.
has done anything.
Well,
watching.
I don't disagree with you. I feel the same way, but I feel
do you ever see his Stonewall movie?
No desire to see that.
It is terrible.
Yeah, not really my thing. I have no interest in ever seeing it. Not for me. And Emmerich, I had no interest. Like, I saw 2012, which came and went, and
that showed up on TV the other day, and my God, is that movie dated?
It's so awful. And what was the other one? Even the one with Jake Gyllenhaal, where like half the nation freezes.
Tomorrow, I did kind of like White House Down though, just because it was so ridiculous.
I didn't even see it. So like, again, like Roland Emmerich to me, there's certain films that he's done, specifically ID4 and The Patriot, that I love.
And the Stargate. I really like Stargate a lot.
I like Stargate. I don't love it. But he's done good stuff. But I feel like, when he's doing something a little more historical with action, he tends to do pretty well. And Midway kind of reminded me of like Independence Day and The Patriot mixed together, which are two of the movies that I love most of his. So
we'll see.
It has potential, and it's got the bombing of Pearl Harbor, which we saw in Pearl Harbor, Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor, which I feel like the attack on Pearl Harbor was great. Everything after was a groaner. But with Emmerich tackling this, I think that it could very well be a good hammy fucking jingoistic historical take on the events. And
I'm not sure about Ed Skrein or whatever his name is the lead though.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I like Patrick Wilson though. Like, having Patrick Wilson in there is always a bonus. Yeah. And it's a lot of other people in the cast too. It's a big cast. So it's like the antithesis of something like The Thin Red Line when it comes to World War II movies.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I'll see it. I'm sure it'll be fun, but I just don't think it'll be good.
Well, I will just say this. It's the first time I've been intrigued enough that I will probably go to the theater to see this. Unless like the reviews are just abysmal, I will go. This is one where I would listen to the consensus of reviews. If they're all saying it is just a pile of shit, then I will just save my money. But I always make up my own mind, but this is one that kind of hinges on that. So if it's middling reviews, I'll go. If it's awful, I'll skip. So that's my personal, everybody, this is where people, they get wrapped up on like, oh, but you fucking thought you hated Rotten Tomatoes and scores and all that. Well, I do. I hate it when that's all that people base it on. You know what I'm saying? But you have to make the personal choice, like what you're going to decide. So that's my personal choice. So there, take that. So something really excellent is happening right now.
Excellent.
There is
party on. Wait, I'm doing Wayne's World. What am I doing?
Party on.
I'm doing Wayne's World. No, sorry.
Long 80s movie, Bumbray. Bill and Ted Face the Music, Bill and Ted 3, is happening. It is filming. It is being
excellent.
They are in front of the camera making this movie as we speak right now.
Yeah, and Keanu even shaved his beard,
which is so off-putting because I don't think we've seen Keanu without a beard.
He looks different. He looks much different without the beard. He looks older without it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like when I shave my beard off, and I'm just like, why did I? It's immediate regret. Immediate regret. I'm just like, fuck. Like, I don't even want to go in public. when I shave my beard. And
I do feel like this movie though is going to benefit a bit from the Keanu-sance that we're having this year.
Oh, for sure. Like, cause I mean, fuck, he's not just Keanu anymore. Now he's John Wick.
Yeah.
Like that, the John Wick moniker has taken on this whole other level. And people just love, and beyond that, people love Keanu because like now there's all these viral Keanu stories that keep popping up. Like, and he's been this way for years, but it's like just now, like really catching hold. So it can't do anything but help Bill and Ted 3. So, and it's, it's just great to have those guys back together.
And William Sadler as Death.
William Sadler, Missy, and Bill's dad or Ted's dad are back. The same actors that played them. Like they've really gotten the gang back together. Jillian Bell has joined the cast. I'm sure there'll be some other surprises in there, but
Samara Weaving is Bill's daughter.
Yeah.
Dead on.
So, I mean, wow, this is cool. Like I'm amazed and I'm happy that it's actually happening. And a lot of people say, well, it's too far. Like it's too long. But, at the end of Bogus Journey, and even in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, they were, kind of talking and prophesizing about how when they're older, they become huge rock stars. Well, here we are. So it kind of makes sense. It really does fit, They weren't beating a dead horse for, 2 decades to get to that point. So now we're at that point. So I think it could work. I realize that there's a whole complete generation that had missed the Bill and Ted wave, but they can catch up.
Yeah, you got time. They're 2 movies, really. I mean,
yeah, and they're pretty easy. They're pretty easy movies to watch. It's not like an endeavor to catch up. But I'm happy that it's happening.
Do you think Stations will be back?
I hope so. Station. And I hope there's a killer soundtrack.
Yeah, me too.
Will be. I actually love the Bogus Journey soundtrack. I fucking love it. There's so many songs on there that I love.
Oh yeah. God gave rock and roll to you.
That's right. So another 80s property is coming back, not to the possibly to the big screen too, with David Goyer, but also is getting a TV show, and that is Clive Barker's Hellraiser.
I've never seen any of the Hellraiser movies.
Holy shit. So this was going to be my confession. I've never seen a Hellraiser movie.
Yeah.
Wow. You haven't seen any of them?
No. So, I mean, should we even talk about this? Okay, Pinhead.
Good.
the guy with all the pins. I mean,
so
fine.
When I was a kid, like my dad and my brother, they loved the Hellraiser movies. And I was a fucking fraidy cat. Like I was like, I'm not watching that. No way. And I remember they rented the sequel, Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. And that shit just looked freaky from I remember I walked in and there was a part where there was like a completely skinned person. And I was just like, not fucking having it. At that age time in my life, I was like, no, I'm out. And they loved it, but I could never bring myself to watch it. And I almost feel like going back to watch them, but I remember I tried watching Hellraiser on a streaming, one of the streaming channels, and I just couldn't get into it. It was boring. So I don't know, man. Like I wonder if Hellraiser is just a visual property that people just want to see. Like, is it just because we want to see like these creepy looking hell people, or is there something more to the story? I don't know. I mean, what are they gonna mine from? Because it was, to my knowledge, it was just a movie written by Barker, not based on any properties or books or anything. So I guess if they want to do a TV show, they could do whatever the hell they want. As long as that's Pinhead. You could be Pinhead, Chris.
Wow, thanks.
I mean, you're bald, so they just gotta glue some pins on you.
Or just stick them in, whatever. Method actor.
And David Goyer has been tapped to direct a movie version. So I don't know. I guess if you're a Hellraiser fan, get ready to raise some hell. There's gonna be lots of fucking hell raising. I really just could care less, and I don't mean that to dismiss anybody that likes it. It's just that it doesn't appeal to me, and it just never has. I just always felt like it was kind of just a gimmick for like creepy Clive Barker-y stuff. Costumes and shit. Just didn't do anything for me. So there. Take that, Chris.
How about The Flash? It looks like Andy Muschietti is going to direct it now.
So if you look at the last few DC movies, they're directed by horror directors.
It worked out fairly well, though, didn't it?
James Wan on Aquaman and David Sandberg on Shazam. And I remember I had asked Peter Safran, the producer of those films, what was it about, bringing horror directors into the DC universe? And, he said something along the lines of like, these are guys that really understand kind of the beats that go into, an event type movie. They have a very good grasp on the creatures. They have a grasp on the suspense and pacing and everything else that translates very well over to the superhero genre. So honestly, like, with Andy Muschietti on The Flash, I feel like it actually has a legit chance of happening. And I feel like it's a very purposeful choice that they went with him, because I think it falls well in line with them hiring horror directors to transfer over to superhero films. And I think that he could actually do something that's, I don't know, not quite a Joss Whedon Justice League.
And so far, they've also got Ezra Miller staying as the Flash.
Which, I think that's good. I like Ezra Miller as the Flash.
Me too.
And I don't feel like he's gotten a chance to shine. And he's fought very hard to be the Flash and to stay on the Flash. So hopefully they can work together. I feel like Andy Muschietti can do that, though. I think that he's proven with it that he's got the chops to make a big, bold, but still edgy and cool and scary kind of film. Like he can remain true to source material and make something special. So I feel like he's a filmmaker that could really make this happen. I didn't have as much faith on any of the other teams that were on The Flash, and now I'm kind of like, okay, this could work. This is somebody that can take on the material. I have faith in them, and I think it would work. So,
thank you. Paul, I'm afraid I have to call it there, Paul. I gotta go.
All right, you go. I'll continue.
Dude.
All right, so Chris has to leave early as usual. But there's just a couple things I wanted to mention before we wrap things up this week. Some of you are on the 4th of July holiday. Today is actually 4th of July as I'm recording this little outro here. It's been a hell of a day. I decided this morning I saw that a bunch of sites were posting, sites meaning bullshit sites like fucking Salon and Jezebel and fucking Teen Vogue. It's like they just waited to pounce on the 4th of July and decided that that was the day they were going to create all their bullshit articles. So, well, I'm one of those old-fashioned combat veteran kind of guys, fought to defend the Constitution and all that shit. So I decided to have a fun day today and just kind of take it overboard on the patriotism and jingoism. So you can always go check that out on my Twitter at Arctic Ninja Paul. That was just a little fun I had today. It was all kind of parody, but the truth is, I am patriotic. I love America. I love the United States. It is the best country in the world. No offense to anybody in Australia or London. It's not that I don't like other places in the world. I just think that USA is the best. But, I'm also biased as fuck, so don't take it personally. Unless you live in Iraq or Afghanistan, and the chances that you're listening to this podcast there are very slim. So anyways, yeah, that was fun. I had a good 4th. It's super fucking hot here. It is like almost 90 degrees in my house, and we don't have central air or air conditioners, and I am fucking dying. Like, I had to turn my fan off to record this, so, whew, just for you guys, just so you know. I'm sweating right now. Real quick, I wanted to talk about, even though today is the 4th, and by the time this goes up tomorrow, it will be over, but still, it'll be in your head. I find it interesting that two of the most patriotic, kind of Americana, jingoistic, fucking rah-rah, flag-waving movies, the most successful ones,
Independence Day and The Patriot are directed by a gay German filmmaker, Roland Emmerich. I didn't dig deeper to kind of figure out what his motivations were with those. But I find that very interesting. That is super compelling. I fucking love those movies. I watched Independence Day yesterday, and I found it to be... I enjoy it. I still love Independence Day. Like, it is a cheesy, fucking just goofy, silly movie, but also very cool, fun action, fun effects. Great score by David Arnold. It's really just an amazing, awesome film. And I had a great time watching it. But one thing I noticed was, like, towards the end, and really kind of just throughout, is that, like, Bill Pullman's President Whitmore is really just... he's not a good president. And he gives a great speech. I mean, that speech is fucking phenomenal, but... You know, he finishes the speech and puts on a suit, and he's like, I'm a combat pilot. goes to fly on this fucking, you know, basically last-ditch effort suicide mission, which I thought was pretty fucking hilarious. And he's like, fires off all his missiles, and then he's like, at the end, he's like, doesn't anybody have any missiles left? I'm like, no, what the fuck are you doing? You know, to conserve fucking ammunition? And, you know, rather than, like, take that shot himself and fly into the main fucking weapon system, he just sends in crazy Randy Quaid, and he's like, all right, fuck, send that motherfucker. I thought that was funny. And then beyond that, when Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum escape the alien mothership after uploading the virus, escaping the ship, landing back on Earth, and basically saving the fucking planet, Whitmore walks up to him, and he walks up to Will Smith and makes Will Smith render a salute, for one. Just lets him do it. He doesn't say, hey, forget about it. He's just like, yeah, put that shit down, fucking salute my ass. Will Smith salutes, and then he just goes, good job. And then he looks over at Jeff Goldblum, and he's just looks at him, kind of touches him by his shoulder and smiles. He's like, not bad. Not bad at all. Like, motherfucker, do you know the shit we just went through? We saved the entire fucking world and barely survived ourselves, and this is what we get? Like, fucking good job and not bad? It's hilarious. So anyways, I thought that was funny. It had never bothered me before, and it doesn't really bother me. I just thought it was hilarious. I was like, man, Whitmore's a fucking dick. He's kind of a glory hound, too. So anyways, I thought that was funny. I'm in the middle of The Patriot. I'm going to finish it after recording this outro, but, you know, I just love that movie. Mel Gibson is great, and I think, you know, a lot of people mistake that as, oh, it's just some flag-waving, you know, fucking celebration of America, but I think they tend to forget that The Patriot is really fucking dark. Like, this is not like, oh, hey, look at Mel Gibson, he's just a badass, and he's just kicking ass and taking names, and that's that. But, like, his fucking kids are being killed left and right. His house gets burned down. He goes to war when he doesn't want to go to war. He has no desire to go to war. You know, he almost loses everything, and he ends up sacrificing, or at least putting everything on the line, for the cause, because in the end, his kids, especially the ones that died, kind of rally him to that. And I think it's a great story, and I know it's loosely based on Francis Marion the Swamp Fox, but, you know, so there's a lot of creative liberty taken there, pun intended. But it's a great movie. I really if you've never seen The Patriot, I highly recommend it. Great score. Watch the extended edition for more Mel Gibson rage and stuff like that. So it's really good. So those are two, I think, really fun 4th of July movies. You're done with that now, but if you so desire, you can watch them anytime. You don't have to watch them just on the 4th of July. They're great anytime. So get down on that. So last order of business, we didn't really get many listener questions, so I'm not even going to go into that this week. I don't know why you guys hate me, but whatever. I'm just kidding. I know you don't. You can't hate me. There's no way. We have some giveaways. 2 giveaways. Speaking of one of them, a kind of an American classic, which is in its 25th anniversary, I believe, Forrest Gump, which is a movie I love, and there's like this new revolution of people to hate on it, but no, fuck that. Forrest Gump's fucking amazing. If you want to hate it, go ahead. Hate good things. Fine. Anyways, we're giving away a 25th anniversary 4K copy. And we are giving away, which I have yet to see, the new Pet Sematary in 4K signed by the filmmakers. That is 2 giveaways. So for the Gump giveaway, if you would like to enter to win that, I need you to go to our Instagram page, Beard and the Bald Podcast, and then put in "Life is like a box of chocolates" in the comments section somewhere, anywhere. Don't worry, I'll see it. I check it. For Pet Sematary, if you want to win that one, go in there and put in "Sometimes Dead is Better." That's it. And then make sure you're obviously following the page, and just put those comments in there somewhere. You could put it in on the post with me and Chris smiling when we recorded this. That's a perfect post to go on. But if you put it on a newer one, that's fine too. It doesn't matter. I will see it. So if you want to enter to win either one of those, that's what you need to do. I'm going to keep trying to do giveaways, try and build up our base here, and bribe you with gifts. So that's what we'll keep doing. It's kind of fun. I like to give back, to be honest. I get sent a lot of cool but honestly kind of useless shit, and sometimes it's nice to just give away cool stuff that people can actually use. So there. Anyways, that's going to be it for us this week. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Sorry, Chris had to duck out early. Next week we'll have his Jesse Eisenberg interview, and I am working up a special guest to come join us. Somebody that works in our field. I don't want to give it away yet. But I hope we can make it happen and have them on the show. Schedule's about to get tight because I and this other person and many other people in our field are getting ready to jump into July con season, which is VidCon for me starting next week. So I will be at VidCon, and I'll actually be bringing my kid with me, who will be tagging along for the entirety of it. I'll be then going on a brief 3-day vacation to Disney and Legoland, and then turning right around for Comic-Con. So no rest for the wicked. It does give me left side chest pain just to think of all of this. But the truth is I love it. That is the absolute God's honest truth. But it is work. Don't mistake it. It's like you are in the midst of running here, there to do interviews, cover panels, get content up out to you guys. It is stressful as fuck. But it's like every now and again, like when you finally get a chance to stop and think back on what you're doing, and you're just like, this is fucking cool. But it's still work. And you're tired. And your feet look like hamburger by the end of the day. And you have swamp ass because there's no time to like stop in the hotel and take a shower and air your balls. It's not going to happen. So you're welcome for that information. Another thing that would really help us, guys, I know we ask every week, maybe you guys don't always make it to the end of the show, but really could use your reviews on iTunes and your ratings. It really does help us grow the audience, and we want to continue to do the show and keep it going. It is hard to do that when the visibility is not quite out there, but we're trying. We do need to grow from at least 13 people to around 20. So if we can make that happen, just give us a quick review. Just be like, I like the show. You don't have to write anything profound. Just give us some ratings. Or if you hate the show, fine. Fuck it, we'll take it. We're so offensive. But no, that would really help us out. So if you could please do that, that would be wonderful. And that's it. That's all I got for this week. Check out those. Check out our Instagram page. Also our Facebook page. All the pages. Every page that's social media. Check it out and like it and stuff. And enter to win those giveaways. And we will see you next week.